go.
Alright. Yes. Let's go. There we go. Hello, EJ.
Hi.
Yeah, can hear me, right?
Yes.
All right.
Let me go ahead and pull up some stuff. I think I have my questions over here.
How's everyone been?
Pretty good, I guess.
Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Alright.
I mean, quite nothing.
Here we go.
So apparently model kits want you to start adding water decals, which is like a whole other like thing I've never done. And man, that shit looks complicated as hell.
Talking about hydro dipping?
Oh, even that. Okay, that's like
No.
Where
I don't think so. Hold up. Where's the sheet of
It's
paper?
like you put like a sheet of paper on top of water and then you like dip the thing in the water.
That's yeah, hydro.
Hydro dipping. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says dry decals and it's talking about water decals for model kits. Lukewarm water for 3 seconds. Take it out with tweezers.
Hey, buddy. Did you... Hold on. Do you want to come over here? Do you want to chill with me? Come here, some... Chill. 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 Boy. We are being joined today by Rocco and the new collar and tag he sports.
Such a handsome boy.
Yes, he is.
Very snazzy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. That should be enough for today. That should be enough hydration.
How are you?
Oh, hey.
Hey. Goodbye.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and fix that.
Wow,
Sorry,
we've got quite the.
Go.
I'm about to head back. I just came in to say, be
Alright.
hard.
Hey, monkey.
Hey, monkey.
I don't
Hello,
want to be in
monkey.
here anymore. I am going to. I gotta get back to murdering every bird in the tri-state area because of fucking bird.
Sit. Chill.
Wow.
Chill.
Little
Don't
fucking-
give him for the second
Oh my
time.
God.
Hold on. Does Glitch not have the? Oh, I didn't. He does not have it. I have to give him it.
Okay, Zeno. I just wanted to tell you the only way I make characters is I put shit on a page and it works.
Yeah,
You
I can
what?
believe that.
I just shit on a page and it works.
You shit
Yeah,
on
I
the page
can
and it
see
works.
that working.
Yeah. And That's all the real input I have on this one because I just that's all I do. Anyway, thank you guys.
Excuse me.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
Nice.
I can hear you, Glitch. All right, so we have passed the 5-minute timer, and I'm gonna go ahead and give a rundown of what to expect today, as well as to kind of give you guys an idea of how it's gonna be run today. So, welcome everyone to another nerdy talk with XenoLich, where last time we were kind of going over, you know, typical D&D stuff and just taking a look at what's what. But you guys might have heard that the poll last time was to get to know my players from either games that we currently have or games from players from past games. Today is kind of more focused on like let's get into the mindset of your guys' role-playing aspects as well as your tabletop history. And so we have a large pool of guests today, and just going down by down, we have Eli, who you would all know as Fetcher from our Monday game.
Hello there.
We have Hayes, who you'd all know as Yasir in our Monday game.
Rosa is also me.
Yep. We have Glitch, who you'd all know as Run in our Monday game.
Hello.
Mex, who you guys would know as Hallie from Monday game.
Hello. Also, it's weird that all the Monday people are lined up.
Yeah.
Right?
I was about to say.
Yeah.
We
is
have
the entire Monday team here.
You mean
Oh.
cringe day?
You got the Monday squad?
So continuing,
It's been
we
brought
have
to you by,
we have Monkey, who you'd all know as Luis from our Saturday games.
or Brock or whichever.
We have EJ, who you'd all know as Seath from our Tuesday games.
Yo.
Skittles, who as you all know would be Dell from our Saturday games.
Thanks for the sound effect.
I know. We have Bird, who you'd all know as Xandro from our Tuesday games.
Yeah.
Maniacal, who you'd all know as Alexandris from our Saturday games.
Hello.
And lastly, we have Zen, who used to be one of our boys in the Monday game, who you'd all know as Zen.
Yeah.
I call him
Gee, who would've thought
The
Yeah.
smartest fucking Veltakin that ever lived.
Indeed. And on top of this, if any of you guys hear any heavy breathing in the mic, just know that is Rocco. He is much more of a breather than Lola is, and I'm right now trying to just get him used to hanging out with us.
Is that a dog?
It is.
Dog guy.
No,
It is a mutated rat, sir.
What was that, Monkey?
I just came in to say hi and
mutant.
tell you I love
Okay.
you.
Okay, I love you too. Yes. Be safe. We will see you next time. But
Alright, love you.
with that, to give you guys an idea of how we're going to be going about this, so kind of going from a top to bottom, we're going to be going through like a kind of round robin question thing, where there's a general question for you guys to be given, and Eli is going to be the first to answer this question, giving us a little bit of insight into him, and we go further and further down the VC. So the rest of you will have time to think about your answers, whereas Eli is pretty much just going to get them as soon as they drop.
Eli started.
All
no.
of you to assume I stink.
Oh my god.
So
That
let's
was-
just go ahead and make it a pretty simple one. So, starting with our boy Eli, tell us a little bit about any history you might have with tabletop role-playing games, even if it's just brief or it's something that you've had since you've been little. What would be your history with just tabletop games, especially the tabletop role-playing ones?
Does chess count?
I don't mind it. I don't mind board game. We all got to start with somewhere with board games.
I mean, so like the only real like time I ever played any sort of like table games or tabletop kind of games was chess, and that was about it. And then like before I joined the Monday group, I was in like a little campaign, but it was short-lived. So that's about it, really.
Well, I'm glad you were able to find a nice home over here with our group in the Monday sessions. Hayes,
Yes, and
why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your history with tabletop games, especially tabletop RPGs.
Typical RPGs. I've been playing for at least a good 3-ish years now. I kind of started because a friend of mine when I was in college, he was a DM, he DM lots, so I wanted to play, so I was like, oh, let me play. And Besides that, I play a lot of campaigns because campaigns how they usually fucking just die
Mm-hmm.
before the characters go high level. But I've been playing a lot of like pretty big kind of like West marches and stuff like that. So my experience, I would say, is pretty high.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Fairly bit of a veteran in you. I like that. I definitely knew that when we were getting you to come into the Monday group. And
Yeah.
Glitch, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your history.
So before being in the Mother group, I was in another group which we still kind of do D&D. We did, I think we did a bit of Strahd, but then that kind of fell apart. And then one of my friends ended up home brewing a D&D mixed with Danganronpa thing, where we're basically in Danganronpa and we're playing D&D that way. And then I did another one shot, forget what it was for, and then I became part of the Monday group. So I'm kind of like an intermediate level, I would say. Like definitely less than probably most people here because I've only been in D&D for probably a year.
Okay.
I would think.
Well, any experience is experience. Every day we all strive to be better than what we did last time, and regardless if it's a year or it's 10 years, there's always some way to learn.
Yep.
Heading on over to our next person in the order, we have Mex.
Well, I have like no experience on tabletops before D&D. There was like a couple of sessions that lasted like, or a couple campaigns that lasted a couple sessions. Uh, but until I actually got into the Monday group, I had literally no experience on D&D. I mean, I obviously knew what D&D was because I grew up like in the 90s, so I knew that stuff. But definitely everything that I know now, I learned from having joined the Monday D&D group.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to have been someone who's able to provide what it sounds like a good amount of you with a full campaign that lasts more than a month. Let's take a look at EJ. Tell us about your history with tabletop RPGs.
I didn't play any until here, but like I pretty much just played like RPG games, and that's like the closest I ever got to it. That and Monopoly.
I do feel as though a lot of us definitely have more experience with our RPG games, and hey, well, what's Monopoly if not a way to better track your goal system and how to hurt your fellow PCs?
God. Yeah.
And so, Skittles, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history?
With just tabletop games in general, I grew up with a lot of board games. I was really good at Risk. It bothered my brothers. There were fights. Quite often there were fights. But that kind of introduced me to more like the tactical tabletop stuff. I didn't start D&D type things until, funny enough, Vampire the Masquerade was my first full tabletop RPG. Yeah, edgy, yes.
Hot
But
vampire time.
yes, it was more. I didn't start D&D until the second edition, like right at the end of second edition, and third edition was about to come out. So started that kind of full session D&D in 2E, 3E, and then stopped for a very long time. Didn't know anything about 5E until I came here.
Well,
That's kind of my history.
all right. Bird.
I think I've said this a couple times during a handful of other nerdy talks, but I think the first like tabletop I ever played was actually D&D or like rip-offs of D&D.
Right.
And I had a fucking blast playing this.
All right. And Maniacal.
Oh, my history is well, I didn't really start doing tabletop gaming, like yeah, I had the board games as a kid, but I was more like extreme sports, and it wasn't until like my knees started going out on me that I started, slowing down and going like, well, what else can I do to preoccupy my time? And my friend was like, "Have you heard of Pathfinder?"
No.
I was
That's
like,
where it all went down.
yeah. And we played like a couple hours of a game and stuff, and then didn't do anything else with it. And then when I started helping my friend with his game development course in school, that's when I got really hooked, because I was like, wow, you could do a lot with this, not just these pre-built book stuff. So when I had a chance to play with Xeno, that's kind of where I started. That's where I got fully hooked.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you came out guns blazing in our first session. It was very adorable to see that. I always love people who get super into role playing right out the get go.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Zen.
What's the question again?
The history with tabletop RPGs.
Oh boy. All right. I'm
Back in my day.
yeah. Back in my day, we
Oh, shut
played
up,
D
you.
and D on cardboard and pieces of paper.
Recycled
yeah.
notebook paper that had been
Yeah,
erased way
like-
too many times.
All
We
right.
had to whittle our own
I
dice
will.
out
I
of
will tell you what
driftwood.
sums up my entire thing with D and D is the fact that fantasy books, like, started off fantasy and D&D books. R.A. Salvatore, Drizzt Erden, Cleric Quintet, that stuff started me off on this stuff way back in the day. And then after that, the first actual game of D&D that I ever played was while I was in the military. And we had some dude who had printed off the entire like player's handbook and the dungeon master's manual and stuff like that, printed it off and had it in a binder where it was like all just super, just all just text, no pictures, no nothing. And he memorized that entire thing. And the way that we rolled die, because we didn't have them back in the day, is we actually took took pieces of paper, wrote the numbers down, ripped them up individual numbers, put them in an envelope, and then shook that shit up, and then picked them out of there. That's my first D&D game ever.
I love this.
Oh my god.
It's very.
Because when you're deployed, you have nothing else to do. So that's how we played, and that was my first ever thing. I was obsessed with scythes at the time, so. And I think the most memorable thing was my DM ever saying, "Okay, you see a deer bounding backwards," and immediately I took that as that's fucked up. And what had happened is the group tried to one of the person in the group tried to attack it, and the deer actually actually ran into the man's face with its ass. This was back at 3.5, by the way. Ran into his face with his ass and started to try and suffocate him, and it was actually an imp that had possessed it. So, pretty crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of people going bare bones D&D, but I think that was like the absolute bare bones D&D.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, like after that, like I eventually got my own stuff and started trying to look for groups and had a couple groups that I started, and my whole experience with this has just been since like 95 onward. Like just the first game that I ever played was back in 2004. So I know a lot of you guys weren't even alive back then.
I was alive. I was
You're not
alive.
that much
When was
older
this
than me,
again?
are you?
When was this again?
32, bud.
You're
You're
30.
30.
Yeah, see, you're not that much older than
Wait,
me.
what year,
I didn't know.
what year you start playing now? What was this?
When did I start playing? 2004, actually.
Uh,
The first game that I ever played was 2004, and that's only because I finally was. Actually, no. Yeah, I was finally old enough to understand it, and I wasn't even the one playing it. It was actually me and a friend went on our local college campus, and we saw them play it. The first game I actually played was 2006. So.
like
And
random
that
time.
was.
Oh, sorry. Where's we finished?
Yeah, that was in the middle of like the army and everything. So that was fun.
Here.
Yeah,
Uh,
right? Oh, sorry.
Go for it. Finish your point.
No, just in like random tangent, I just realized I don't know if anyone else here DM stuff, but anyone else knows about it? You cannot like verbally explain how to play D&D to somebody, because it's just like when you kind of like think about it, it's so fucking complicated, but like in your head it makes sense.
So,
Yes.
it definitely wouldn't be a way talk show if I also didn't give in my own input. Letting you guys know my history into just tabletop role playing games. A lot of it pretty much was your standard. I grew up playing board games, Monopoly, Risk, Sorry, you name it. And it wasn't until I want to say like my senior year of high school that I actually got into D&D. And so it was one of those things where me and a friend had wanted to get into it, and without really knowing anything about like how the game is properly played other than you roll dice, I had like saved up, bought the starter pack, and ran session 1 where both of us kind of like did not understand. He decided, hey, I know, I'll just play a wizard, and he was my only player. So when the wizard, who was by himself, got ambushed by 4 goblins,
Oh no.
it it did not turn out well, because it was like, all right, you roll for initiative. Okay, there's 2 goblins that are gonna go before you. Okay, that's fine. And the goblin hits you. You take this much points of damage. How much health do you have left? I'm at 0. What? And it was a weird way of getting like a bad taste of D&D in my mouth, because I was like, I don't think is this how the game is? Are we doing it right? And to only now realize, there's a reason why there's a party of people. There's a description that goes into it, and on top of this, you're also looking at something that when I did go beyond that, for my first campaign that I had ever run, I had printed out the entire Out of the Abyss pages. Of course, now I own the content. I owned it both physically and now digitally. And it was kind of one of those things where rather than a binder, I use those like binding clips, and it's like looking at like a Hollywood script type of thing, where it's just like you got to flip through the pages. The issue was the cover page and the back page were also pages themselves, and so when it came down to like looking for where I was supposed to go, it was like a nightmare trying to run Out of the Abyss for my first time.
Yeah.
Outside of just the general new book smell, I definitely now love any content I get. And while I have moved from physical to digital, it is something that I still greatly enjoy. To the small collection of books I do own, I do have all I have right now is the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual, as I had sold my Player's Handbook and Xanathars to a dear friend.
That's good.
Yeah, but if that's now we kind of understand your guys' history with tabletop role playing games. Now let's talk about what is your favorite playstyle, I guess, and why is it? So now we're back at the top of the order with Eli. What would you say, just from what you've done so far? What is your most favorite way of playing Dungeons and Dragons, and why is that so? Tell us a little bit about if this is your first character, why did you want to go down this route?
Well, technically speaking, yeah, it's my first character, like my actual first fleshed out character.
Mhm.
And I honestly, at first, it was like, okay, this seems cool. I want to do this. It was more of like experimenting what I could and couldn't do and how it would turn out. But my favorite kind of play style so far, especially like in the sense of like combat or anything like that, is like being the controller. Like making life harder for the enemy, like controlling one of their allies or summoning something
Mhm.
to distract them for a little bit.
Yes.
And like for my actual character, I guess being friendly but also being chaotic as well, if that makes sense.
No, I get that. Now, out of curiosity, like, why is it that you like playing the controller slash summoner?
I find it more convenient. I like the idea of like, I can be relaxing, everything is a-okay in my summons. or my controlled person, takes down some enemies, and I get the you know, I get what's the word? I guess I get praised for it. I guess you can say like, oh, I did that even though I didn't do anything.
I like how that's a thing. And then all of a sudden you take a spell like summon demons. It's like, don't worry guys, I got this. I'm gonna summon things that half of them are gonna either kill us or help us.
Yes.
Yes, it's all worth it in the end. None of us has died
Yeah,
yet.
Yes.
there we
Stay
go.
with the person that
We've
gets
come very
knocked out every
close. Very,
session.
very close.
Hey, just because that so far I've almost been eaten alive on multiple occasions and knocked down on multiple occasions
Damn.
does not mean I am um bad at what I do. It's a learning process.
You cannot like buy D&D. It's impossible to buy on D&D.
Right. So, well then, Hayes, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? What has been your favorite way of playing Dungeons and Dragons, and why is it so?
I wouldn't necessarily say have a play style. Mostly, what I play in games is usually what's left over, because like at least for me, I find enjoyment like all different play styles, and I have a good amount of knowledge to know how to play like a different like role and mechanic party.
Mhm.
So I usually say everyone, hey, you guys make your characters, say the fuck you want to play, and I'll come in and then compliment you guys.
All right.
Cause at least if you're talking about for Yasir, I saw the party, and I was like, oh, okay, so well we have a lot of squishies. You have a cleric, that's good. Still got some healing, but maybe I should have a next tank just in case. So
Yes.
I make it
I, I
not knowing. No, sorry, what you
No, I was gonna say yes, indeed. The cleric, who's totally not more fighter than cleric at this point.
saying? I was not expecting that, honestly. I would have probably went for like a support character if I knew that ahead of time.
It
To
is
be honest.
it is okay, but I do understand. I do get that. The Thursday boys aren't here. However, though, one of the players, my brother, is very much that role of I don't mind. I don't mind playing anything. I like to kind of be the filler to help balance things out. It's always nice to have someone like that who is okay with just about doing everything and will find a way to make it fun.
Yeah, but I would say my favorite playstyle class is like support or mainly cleric.
Mhm.
I enjoy being kingmaker more than king, essentially.
All right, all right.
Especially where it's like you're the support character, and then for some reason you do a shit ton of damage out of nowhere. Because short story, I had my first cleric, my first like long-standing like demon character was a death cleric, like half ghost person named Noam. Uh, most of the like I didn't know death cleric was the blaster fucking like subclass. I was just like, oh, I'll heal, it'd be nice. And then it was like we were like fighting like a vampire or something like that.
Mhm.
And it was like my turn. I had nothing else. People were healing. I was just like, oh, I'll just cast a 6 level guiding bolt. I not 20. And I put an extra death click, so it's like 200 damage. I'm just like, holy fuck.
That kind of
Great
reminds me of
start.
the idea that the Bard College of Whispers is a very scary Bard subclass because it just does so much damage, and it's it comes from the class that most people use as the joke class. Like, oh, it's the horny Bard, ha ha ha. Yo, why do they do so much damage?
Yeah, it was funny because like, the character was like such like a mild mannered, just like nice person to everybody. And he was just like, what was this?
Yes. And
But yeah.
well, then, Glitch, why don't you tell us a little bit about your time being with your time in D&D. What has been like a favorite play style of yours, and why is that exactly?
My favorite playstyle would probably be either like being the sneaky one, because like one of my favorite classes to be is like rogue, because like you can also like find out so much information like if you do like the correct kind of like sneaking and stuff like that. Like you can hear people talk and other stuff, and like because I love gathering information about like the world, people, items, and that would be like basically sneaking and intelligence would probably be my favorite ones. Like my playstyle, if I did have a playstyle,
Mhm.
because like it's just fun to learn about the lore and stuff like that.
Oh.
So like whenever we like get like defeat an enemy, I'd want to see if they have any items, see what those items are,
Mhm.
and it just like
I
and
th-
like basically explore and like basically knowledge kind of.
I think we definitely saw a little bit of that when you guys briefly saw that Netherese tomb, because it was like, oh, what is this? Like, what's going on here, type of thing.
Yeah, and like because I think I immediately went up to like the altar to look at it
Yeah.
and just like wanted to investigate, and it's really fun to try to learn stuff about like the lore of like especially if it's a homebrew
Mm-hmm.
or like something that you haven't played before.
Indeed. Something I can't wait for you guys to do, just by either doing the actual text-based RP stuff that we've launched on the server, or when it comes down to your campaigns finishing, when you all are able to finally explore the world in a more D&D based thing rather than a text-based RPG. There's a lot to explore, and I highly urge any of you, if you have not, to take a look over at the text-based RPG to maybe see if you want to dip your feet into the homebrew world and explore it a little bit. But let's head on over to Mex. Tell us a little bit about what it is that is your favorite playstyle going through D&D. I understand you have, like you said, you've mainly been experiencing full campaigns with me, though you, I think, have a good bit of knowledge and a bit of testing around after everything we've done.
Yeah, for sure. I do have several campaigns outside of what we stream, so that definitely adds to it. But I want to say the playstyle I do most is kind of like how was mentioned earlier, kind of an adaptive one. So, uh, like when we're making a party, I'll look at what we're missing. Uh, Before it was like I have to make a character on the spot. Now I have a bunch of characters, so I can be like, all right, I could throw this guy in here. It'll help. Uh, I also like adapting my characters during the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first Monday group, uh, we didn't really have anybody to tank, so I was like, I'll just make the best tank I got. And then I was like, I kind of don't have any range, so I was like, I'll multi-class into this to give me some range. So I like adapting my playstyle to the campaign as it goes on.
Mm-hmm. I think if there's anything I can say, is I like the fact that when it comes down to actually looking through my server, I will always see the Monday Dice Roll channel being used in some regard, and it's because someone, Mr. Mex here, is rolling for stats for a character that he is just coming up with, since he just has all these available slots from paying for this subscription on D&D Beyond. But one of my favorite jokes when it comes down to hearing about the player who is always ready with a character is that, yes, look at all my characters I have made. All right, I'm joining a session, time to make a character for it. What about the characters you've made in their backups? What about them?
Exactly. They don't exist.
Exactly.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I just like making them.
Split them up. I always have okay. When I start a campaign, it's these characters. When my guy dies because I get bored of him, I have these other ones that are higher leveled.
Yeah. I just like coming up with like stupid builds.
Well then here, let me ask this nice little segue question that doesn't rely on a turn order. So for any of you who have made multiple characters, what is by far the hardest aspect when it comes down to deciding which one you're going to use for the campaign? Because at this point, every single one of you, if you do have multiple characters you've made them because they have all these cool concepts that you've had in mind at the time of making them. But when it comes down to picking them, what's the hardest part about it?
I would say.
Well, go ahead.
I say our potential how they would fit in the campaign essentially. I would say. Because
Continue.
Here, go ahead and finish your point.
No, just saying because I have like for instance I have a rogue paladin swashbuckler treachery oath as a pirate. That would fit great in a pirate campaign. But if we're fucking landlocked for a majority of the campaign, he wouldn't really fit well there. Kind of like a fish out of water, literally.
Yeah.
So like it has to like fit well with how the game's like feeling is, I guess.
Okay. And you were saying, Bird?
I don't personally have this problem. However, when I introduced my friends to D&D, I had one friend in particular who was enjoying it so much. Within about a week or two, he had created hundreds of characters.
Damn.
And I don't understand what he does with them all.
Look at them. Dream about them. Alright.
He's got, like, characters for campaigns 30 years in the future from now. Just about.
Okay, well then let's take a look. Now that was a good bit of a segue, but now, so EJ, I understand that, like you said, a lot of the experience with D&D comes from the campaign that you're currently in. So with that, what is it that you're liking about the playstyle that you have developed so far, and why is it that you like it so much?
Well, one of the things I tried to do was talk to you and see what we were missing. So I guess adaptability could, like, or fitting the role that needs to be fit is something that I don't really mind doing, because I like the idea of, like, all right, I need to build this, and then I build around that, because it helps me, like, not start from ground zero. But I chose the Warlock Hexblade, and I really like that because I've always liked getting up close and personal. Also, it just sounded really cool. And I was like, well, I shouldn't play things based off how good they are. I should play it, how fun and cool I think it'll be.
Yeah, definitely a motto to go by when it comes to D&D.
Yeah, so it was very much like my character is up close and personal, and I really like that. Because, like, I can't, like, physically, like, see it, but I can, like, imagine when you're like, oh, you rolled nat 20 and you, like, hit them for this much and you slice their throat in half. I'm like, yeah, I did that. That was me.
There you go.
Killed.
All right.
Yeah.
And so, something I'm curious about the answer myself. So, Skills, when it comes down to the playstyles that you've done, what is definitely your favorite playstyle to do when in D&D, and why is it that exactly?
This should be a no-brainer for anybody who knows me. I am absolutely the support.
Support 5.
Oh no, we talked about this.
I am big heels. I am the neck that turns the head. I am the one. While I might not be the most aggressive with RP, I will sit there and listen and observe and make my judgment and make sure everybody knows and hears about it, or they don't get heals. Fuck you.
Classic.
Make sure to keep everyone alive. When in doubt, the support, as much as dealing damage is nice, and as much as having all of this arcane spell power is nice, don't ever underestimate what the support can do, because they're the one who's in charge of whether or not your character continues to play the game.
Precisely. So, like, don't piss off the person who can heal you is kind of my general play motto. I typically play bards. I like to style myself as an expert in bards, mostly because I like the flexibility of the way they play. You can either buff, you can damage, you can heal, you can create things, you can, do pretty much anything. But I'm starting to find with especially 5th edition, there's a lot of that flexibility in other things, but most of the time it's support, most of the time it's spellcasters.
There we go. Alright, in this case, Bird, same thing. What has it been through D&D that has been your favorite playstyle, as well as why is it your favorite playstyle?
Well, for the most part, I've always played either a class that moves really quick and gets in your face very fast, just a high DPS kind of character, or a very stealthy character that will put a hole through the head long before you ever reach him. That's across the board in both like tabletop games, D&D, and video games too. So I've always had a bit of a preference towards that.
And I'm curious to see why is that though? Why you know everyone likes seeing when the big numbers go and make things go dead, but why is it that you like doing that in Dungeons and Dragons in particular?
Well, I don't necessarily like the big numbers. I like to hit for more reasonable numbers. I just like to watch the health bar just slowly drain.
I see.
Like Pokemon?
Sort of. Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta get going. I'll see you guys later.
All right.
All right, man.
See you later, Zen.
Bye.
I think that's kind of always been my preference because it's the way my dad taught me to like play things like Oblivion and Skyrim and such. And when we played D&D off and on, this board game that was mostly like D&D, I always got the Ranger and the Rogue. So I always got the stealth classes.
All right. In which case, we head on over to Maniacal. What is it that's been your favorite playstyle going through Dungeons and Dragons, and why is it so?
So the playstyle I really enjoyed playing was Zeo, the Leonin I got to play, and that's just because it allowed me to kind of do my adrenaline junkie thing, to where I had a character that could take some hits, so I was able to do a lot more exciting, stupid shit and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot.
Oh, sorry.
So it was a lot more fun with that character because I could just run in and go like, "Oh, I hope this works out."
Yeah. I definitely noticed that, especially when it came down to the look at this, you're gonna die. Oh, don't worry, I got a con save I can do, and I succeed, and I succeed, and I succeed, and you just refuse to die.
Yeah, it was kind of like playing extreme D&D in a way for me. It's like, oh, I could die.
Indeed. And so we do have another person who is joining us right now. Everyone, this is Rogue, who you'd all know as Dura from our Saturday games.
Hello, everybody.
And so you are late to the party, mister, and so you're going to get plagued by the questions that have been asked so far.
Ah, shit.
First,
Welcome to being the center of attention.
Yes. First, what is your history with tabletop role-playing games?
For real, thought you were about to ask what his favorite.
Well,
color
tabletop
was.
was never really big for me, but when going to school, I always just played Monopoly, Clue, Sorry, Game of Life. I was always good at that game, but lately, I haven't shit.
Well, then when it comes down to Dungeons and Dragons, you know you played in a few campaigns with me by now. So what would you say is your favorite playstyle going through Dungeons and Dragons, and why is it so?
What, like campaign style or just?
I mean, no, your personal playstyle.
Well, personally, I do like to play support, but I also want to get my hands dirty as well. But it seems I do more good as support. I'm not really all that good at heavy hittings because my rolls are usually shit, or basically the bot gives me just literally crap stats. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Hopefully for the homebrew campaign, we'll see some pretty decent numbers for stats.
Hopefully for the homebrew, I hit the big numbers again.
Yes. All right. And so let's taking a look past. Now we understand your guys' play styles. We understand why you guys like them, and we understand a little bit about your history. But going from the top of the order, I want to know more specifically about your least favorite thing going through Dungeon Dragons? Something to counter what you've been saying that you like so much of it. And if you want to add into it, what was by far your, I guess, the lowest point you felt in a session? It could be something that is very bad because it put you in an emotional state. It could be something that was very bad because of just the way the other players were. Feel free to just vent out your biggest D&D frustration, starting with Eli.
Alrighty. What you call it? So my least favorite thing about I guess D&D is when you first begin. And
Okay.
this also goes with the lowest point in D&D because I feel extremely useless in the beginning. That's how I felt when I was first starting out off as a warlock. So like while everyone else was like dealing like death blows and killing everything, I'm just here like damaging them and barely doing anything. And then you know, next minute I'm doing death saving throws because I'm extremely squishy.
I see, I see. So, by the way, everyone, I'm putting down notes. Every campaign that Eli is in, now you guys are stuck at level 1 for the entire campaign.
Damn.
No
No,
way.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Challenge
Okay, it's
mode.
okay. You can be that. It won't last very long.
Exactly, right? It won't last very long if you stay level 1. Plus, any DM who keeps you guys level 1 by the time you guys are dealing with BBEGs is kind of it's a weird statement. I'd imagine the BBEG is just constantly goblins, goblins, goblins.
That'd be kind of point.
All right, actually, I'm curious about that
It's
now
like
myself.
the freaking Gravity Falls gnomes. They're just piled on top of each other to create the uber
Gnomes, you
goblins.
say?
Goblin
Yes.
Lord.
And so, taking a look at our next person, since he has squeezed himself in right there, interrupting the flow of the Monday boys, Rogue, tell us about
that's
your
right.
your lowest point in D&D, and just vent out your big D&D frustration.
I mean, basically what Eli said. I do hardly any damage, but of course, it's the story aspect, and there's one that I still cannot get over. You put us all the males in a damn camp with the soap droppers. Yeah, I still can't get over that.
Damn.
My mind will
Oh,
never
boy.
be clear. My mind will never be clear of that. Okay,
You're
so
a
Eli,
victim.
you don't know about this. So in the earlier campaign, it was me, Amy, also known as Cinnabus, Tepid, Skittles,
Maniacal.
and Maniacal.
I was the one who got you in the
And
situation.
and
don't know why you forgot about me.
and also Calcium. So basically, what happened is we had to go there and discuss with another part of the chieftains because we were all in prison in that section.
Here, if
We were fighting a monster beforehand, and we were all getting our asses whooped.
right here, if
So we all got
here, allow me to shed light on this.
God, please.
Basically, the Saturday campaign, for their first homebrew session, they actually started off in a prison. In fact, the largest and most infamous prison in the entire homebrew world. And it's the point where this prison was actually a region. And so they kind of like let the prisoners loose. And so the prisoners formed their own quote unquote gangs, but more like tribes in this frozen wasteland. And while different tribes kind of formed their own different reasons, there was one tribe that they very much tried to avoid so much, which was an all-male tribe known as the Soap Droppers.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yes.
Oh, so basically it's like old Australia then.
Yes. And
Yeah.
to add on to that, anyone who knows Boondocks would know the name as the actual leader of the gang was the Booty Warrior himself.
Yeah.
Chris Hansen.
Yes.
Chris.
Yeah,
Chris Handsome.
I did not cry.
Oh
But
man.
they were girthy for no reason.
Point at the doll.
It was very much an interesting campaign that day, but you know
that shit hurt.
our players managed to get through, and they went off to go and do some pretty crazy things. We're talking like they managed to go save the world multiple times. They had unlocked Delph powers, and also they had a white dragon completely kill and murderize the entire soap droppers.
I was happy about that. I was very happy that
Until
happened.
we were
Homeboy
happy
got
until
That's right. You guys,
Until we got the
Ew.
mama dragon and the baby killed.
right. Something had happened. A decision that they had made led to the dragon that had helped them kill that gang, leading to her death, as well as the baby dragon that she had in her own wing. It was very,
Yeah,
it was
that
very
was
like
bad.
as soon as they hit their highest, it was immediately brought down because of consequences from the prison warden. But
We fucked up that day.
taking a look at our next
Hey,
player,
one too many mama jokes.
right? Taking a look at our next player. Hayes, tell us one of your biggest D&D frustrations and one of your lowest points.
Well, at least for me, I haven't played in a lot of areas where it's like I've had bad moments per se. I
Mhm.
mean, worst I'd say is the general would you fucking just roll low, I guess. But most of the time, it's mostly just like bad players more than general D&D frustration.
Yeah, that is definitely a valid frustration. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, all right.
Let's go.
Well, in that case, glitch. What about you? D&D
Um,
frustration and lowest point.
Can I have
Interesting.
two lowest points?
Yeah,
Because I'm thinking of like two different campaigns.
sure.
Well, my frustration is like also always getting low rolls, especially for the hit DC. Because like at least with run, I have one attack, and I think most people in the campaign have at least like two. So like whenever I try to go for a hit and miss, I'm out for that round
Mhm.
basically. And it's always like such a pain, like especially when I thought I've have like a good spell and then doesn't succeed. And then for my first lowest point was I think 2 weeks ago when we were leaving. I think it was Mushroom area.
Yeah, never let
Like
Grove.
Stool, Neverlight Grove, and Run just got amnesia, and we're also dealing with Stool, who's basically his entire people is becoming evil, and he doesn't know about it. So it's sad because Run got amnesia, so he doesn't remember Stool at all until 3 days later. But like it was sad in the moment because he couldn't remember Stool and he didn't know why him and everyone else were so sad, like except for him just seeing like the leaving the town basically.
Right.
And then another point would be for my Dungeons and Danganronpa campaign that I do with my friends, because my friend, my character is the ultimate exorcist. If you know Danganronpa, there's the ultimates, and basically he kind of grown an attachment to this one character during the third chapter, who ended up becoming the killer to two characters. And like after the trial, he like didn't, because he can see ghosts. He didn't want to see this character's ghosts anymore, so he decided to exorcise them, which he wouldn't see them at all anymore.
Okay.
And it was just like it literally like made me sad as well, especially, and it made him sadder that it made like the character go into his own form of depression because he's an Asmar. So I thought, like, hey, why not make an Asmar become a fallen angel?
Okay.
So his halo like went from like a rose gold color to like a grayish black, and his wings also went like black and gray. So it was like he literally went into his own form of depression because of this, and it's like he was truly feeling like this, like quote unquote despair, like in Danganronpa.
I like this. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely a low point, but more on the like the actual effects that your character is feeling in
Yeah.
in Dungeons and Dragons. I like that. All right, Mex, D&D frustration and lowest point.
Obviously, there's always the, wow, we just rolled really bad. So one of the campaigns I did before coming here, it was I think like 4 or 5 of us, and we went to a farm to find these homunculus or find these creatures. Turned out it was homunculus. First turn, I believe almost everyone in the party had knocked themselves out with nat ones. So it was literally like me having to fight off like 3 homunculus, and I was like, what the heck? But it's like, it's not like people were bad. It's just their roles were bad. So it's like, I can't be mad because it's not their fault. But it's like, now I got to carry this situation, and I'm like, God damn it. And then I guess the second one would be when a certain goblin got on my nerves, and I never got to kill him at the end because he decided to die.
I can understand that. It definitely was an interesting campaign to be running with quite a chaotic goblin. Hey, chill, chill. It's okay. It's okay. I know.
So
I know.
that's why from then on, all my characters have their purposes for the party, but then they could also double to do really good in PvP.
I see that. I can at least get why. It's very much in the event of going against a type of player that wants to go against the group and go against the brain. It's good to have something that can help, kind of be like a DM PC in a way. Hey, chill. I know. The talk of goblin makes you jealous because you are one. It's okay. But all right. Well, if that's the case, then we head on over to EJ. I know, once again, same thing. Regardless of your experience, the biggest D&D frustration followed by lowest point.
Oh, my biggest frustration? Definitely the first game. Definitely. Like, I was so excited for the first game. I was like, I'm gonna fight some shit. I'm gonna get hit, back and forth combat. We only got to combat near the end of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I was so like impatient. But like now I'm just like, all right, we fight, oh whatever. But like that first big fight for like me, I don't think I'll ever forget that.
I'm trying to remember what was it for you again?
I think it was like the 17 in what's the name of that one town with the where the speaker got kidnapped?
Oh,
and the clam chowder inspiration. Yeah.
I know which town you're talking about.
What's Gresham?
No. Bryn Shander's the big one. I think it was Caradinival, I think.
Yes. Caradinival. It was, yeah. We were there. I was like such a tiny town. I was like so excited to fight. And then like near the end of the session, I was like, wow, I am exhausted.
Yeah, it definitely comes to this entire thing where you realize that, I think what it is for a lot of players, there are those that love roleplay and there are those that love combat. And when you're someone who loves combat and you realize that a lot of the session has this entire, oh man, I gotta use my brain. A lot of us really take for granted the amount of mental power it takes for us to stay in character for long periods of time. When it comes to combat, it's kind of like, okay, now I can actually just look at numbers. There's a formula here that I can work with, rather than I gotta think on the fly and actually use my brain to roleplay this character. Chill.
Another one of my biggest frustrations is like I don't feel useless, but like I'll get down a lot, so I don't really feel like my defense is that good, and I want to be like more useful to my party.
I understand that. You and our fellow warlock Eli definitely know what it is to be squishy.
Yeah. Also with the sharks, the never-ending sharks.
Yes.
So imagine almost being eaten alive by fucking fish people on multiple occasions.
Hey, at least you guys have something in common. You guys almost got eaten alive by something that had gills.
Yeah.
More than once.
Yeah.
Who's the one that almost
More than
died
once.
because of the manta rays?
Yes, I was the reason why they attacked.
Yes, I think it was Eli. In this case, then we head on over to Skittles. Biggest D&D frustration as well as lowest point in a campaign.
These are not fun topics.
I know, but it definitely is something that we all come forward and like realize these are what we don't enjoy encountering.
I think the ongoing frustration is that I am part of the Low Rollers Club. Mex was mentioning all those nat ones. I was part of that fiasco. I consistently low really fucking bad. Um, and then I get like mediocre days, and it's okay. But most of the time, it's just like that is what I expect. This is this is this is me. It is the most frustrating part about it. I think one of the biggest other things was the most recent thing that happened,
Yes.
but I'm not sure I want to talk about that
That's fine.
just yet.
That's fine. If you like, I can kind of give it a basic summary because it's a very much a D&D horror story trope.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
any of you guys, let me ask you all this. Have any of you heard of the term, it's what my player would do?
Yes.
So it's what my character would do.
Unfortunately.
It is a trope that is very common in what is called RPG horror stories, because when someone wants to, how do I put this? Now this isn't
Be a shithead.
Okay, yeah. When someone wants to be that, they will use the excuse, which is it's what my character would do, and cause detrimental damage to the other players because it's what my character would do. And that's always been something where whenever I encounter that, either in a horror story, it's just like, you know, I, for the most part, have always been here because D&D has been more fun than it is the roleplay. I enjoy. I think for me, the fun comes with hanging out with people that you can get along with, and collaborative storytelling where you aren't putting each other down. So when you have someone who says something like that to specifically put other players' funds down, it can really put a damper on things, and it can definitely cause some discourse in a group. But with that being the low point and the frustration, we head on over to Bird. Biggest frustration / lowest point.
Oh boy, that's a good question. I don't really have that many, if I'm being honest.
That's fine.
I don't know. I've mostly had fantastic experiences.
I'm glad to hear that, but there's no lowest point in the campaign for you. As you saw, for let's say someone like Glitch, it wasn't even a matter of like lowest point, like when you weren't having the most fun. It could even be something along the lines of just your character had encountered a serious thing that had brought a damper to them, and it was pretty interesting to roleplay that.
I think, I guess in that case, it would probably end up being when Xandril died, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you too?
Yeah. I died first. What do you mean?
No, I died second.
Yeah, I know, but I died first. That's my accomplishment. Don't take this from me.
No, gentlemen. Death is not a thing we can compete about. But continue.
But like, I was getting bunched up by all those tribesmen. To be fair, I did deserve it because I said they hit like a bitch. But then I was down. Nobody could get to me. And I'd already failed once. And it was just the moment where I said, well, gentlemen, it's been lovely. And then immediately rolled a 1.
Yep.
That hurt internally a lot for a few seconds.
For my people who are also relatively new, we are all aware that natural 1s and natural 20s are the things that usually spell the end or spell your highest moments and your lowest moments. But for those of you who haven't experienced it in death saving throws, as you know, you need 3 failures and then you die, or 3 successes and you are stabilized with 1 HP after a set amount of hours. Well, in death saving throws, when you roll a natural 20, it considers you already succeeding all 3 of your death saves and having 1 HP that you get immediately so you can get back into the fight. Versus getting a natural 1 which is 2 failures applied on top of it. It is not an instant death. However, though, if you had 1 failure already previously, as Xandro did, a natural 1 is the thing that ends your character a round earlier than you would have expected.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got the nat 20 on a previous death saving throw. Got up. They fucking put me back down again. And then I got that nat 1. And then I died, and now I have a worm in my eye.
Yes, a sentient worm that gives him the power to get back from death. But with
Whose
that
name
being,
is Jeffrey.
with that being the case, we head on over to Maniacal. Biggest D&D frustration as well as lowest point in a campaign.
I'd have to say my biggest. So this is an honest frustration of mine. Is there's no dodge command.
Dodge action.
Mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, dodge action or mechanic, which does kind of frustrate me after playing so many games that allow me to dodge like attacks and stuff. So that does get frustrating. Like, if I could dodge, I wouldn't be taking this much damage.
Right. I think so. How do I put this? We're already all well aware that there is a dodge action, but what you're referring to is more like a kind of way to guarantee. Yes, there is. But the dodge action, what it does is that you use the action in your turn, and until the start of your next turn, creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls against you. However, though, I think
Unless you're a rogue, and then you get it as a bonus action.
I think the main thing that Maniacal is more referring to is, like, for example, in, let's say, a board game like the actual Dark Souls board game, there is a dice that says if you roll this much or higher, you just automatically avoid the attack entirely. So it's kind of a thing where dodging as an action, it makes it harder for the opponent, but the opponent is still in control of whether or not they hit you. Whereas what I think you're looking for is you being in control of whether or not they hit you, correct? Like you making the option to go out of the way.
Well, more of like, I would like it to where if you have like, say if you have your character has like a certain dex or something, you're able to roll like a d6. Anything between 1 and 3, you get hit. Anything between 4 and 6, you dodge.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Interestingly enough, one of the best things I can usually refer to this is this is why dex and strength are used to make up for certain armor classes. It's implied that when you are a dex-based character and you have light or medium armor, when an attack misses you, it is because it legitimately missed you. You have such high dexterity that you nimbly move out of the way, reflecting that in your AC, which is why you're so hard to hit because you're so nimble. Whereas in strength more applies to the fact that because of your heavy armor, technically the attack hits you, but because your armor is just so durable, or you're able to reflectively raise a piece of your armor in reaction to that, you're able to dodge the attack. You're able to avoid the attack because you put your armor in place of it. And that's always been something I've like. Yes, it's not exactly a way of controlling the fact that you can dodge, because regardless, D&D is just, it comes down to being a numbers game. And
I'm talking about I'm talking like the barbarian, because my barbarian class, I couldn't wear armor or else it would fuck with my abilities. But then that also affect my AC.
Funny enough, so only after some time after you playing Zeo, I think that's when we realized that barbarians can still benefit from raging and their unarmed movement, so long as they're not wearing heavy. Medium and light armor are actually perfectly fine for them to use.
Yeah, I think we did figure that out eventually for me, and then that's when I remember Zeo getting really unstoppable because we got him like some light or medium armor, and then my AC just went.
Yeah.
I basically got a fuck you AC.
Exactly, and now that is where you're in control.
Yeah.
Light armor and medium armor don't count against unarmored defense?
Specifically for the barbarian. It explicitly explains that the barbarian... Now, unarmored defense is if you choose to not wear armor, in which case your armor class is 10 plus dex plus con. However, though, if you choose to wear armor, your unarmored defense is not a feature that is involved unless your unarmored defense gives you more AC than the armor you're wearing.
Yeah.
In Dungeons & Dragons, armor abilities don't stack. You take whichever one is giving you the greater benefit at the time. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing for temporary hit points, where temporary hit points never stack. You just take whichever is the greater temporary hit point buff.
I think nothing really stocks in D&D. Like things with auras, armor bonuses,
Yeah.
nothing really stocks that shit up.
That is correct.
If it's the same thing, the highest, just you can see the highest.
And so, we oh, sorry, but that was your biggest frustration. What about your lowest point, Maniacal?
Oh, when you actually make it to the end of the campaign, that's actually a low point for me. Like, you can have like stuff happen in a campaign and stuff where you're like, oh yeah, but that's still a memory. When a campaign ends, that's when it's kind of like the end of a good game or a good book. Like, you no longer have that to look forward to. That story's over.
It's done.
Fast.
Yeah.
You can't. And unlike a book or a game, you can't go and replay a D&D campaign and try something different or try something new. Once a D&D campaign is over, it's kind of like a part of your life. You can never relive that moment. It's gone and it's past.
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
I do understand what you mean. It's kind of one of those, you've gone through the story once. The story's element of surprise, as well as the point in which it changes, are no longer a mystery to you. For example, let's say a group that is running, like let's say the Thursday Boys who are running Tomb of Annihilation, if they actually so wished to rerun the campaign, by the time when they do find out where the Lost City of Omu is, the Lost City of Omu is no longer the Lost City of Omu, because when they start the campaign, they have their previous knowledge to be like, we can do this. Granted, that's when you have a talk with your DM to do the whole in-character knowledge versus out-of-character knowledge. But I kind of don't get that too much. As a player, it's understandable. As a DM, I've run just about all of your guys' campaigns except for Baldur's Gate: Descent to Avernus and Icewind Dale. All of the other campaigns I have run multiple times. I've run Tomb of Annihilation at least 2 or 3 times. Out of the Abyss, I have run 4 times, if not 5 times before. And if you talk to me about Curse of Strahd is definitely one of my is probably second up there when it comes to replayability. And it also helps out that some of these campaigns do have ways of causing a twist in new different playthroughs. It's why one of my favorite things to do in Out of the Abyss is I roll a dice. I think it's a D10, and depending on what number I get on the D10, that is the NPC who I am going to kill in Velkenvelv. And from there, I use that NPC death to start molding the way the other NPCs act.
Well, I'm talking like those are pre-built games, so like yeah, I can see those being replayable. I'm talking about like our
a homebrew
experience.
Yeah.
Like that story's kind of done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'll ever get to go through that story ever again.
Exactly. You would
like
know.
With these pre-built ones, of course you can run them again with like different characters and different things because they're set games and stuff like that. But that's why you've made me fall in love with the whole homebrew aspect, is because I felt a more magical connection through your home build than the pre-built that we're doing now.
Mm-hmm. And that's understandable. I definitely think the main draw to homebrew campaigns is the flexibility and where you want to go. Whereas, pre-made campaigns, there's kind of a track that in the end, all D&D games have a railroad that you go on, but pre-made campaigns have that railroad much more visibly, easier to see. To an extent. Curse of Strahd is definitely not like
and
that.
of course, there's those invisible world walls as well.
Right. In which case, the campaign kind of needs to explain itself. Like, what do you do when a player wants to go outside of the zone? Duh.
You
comes up and eats them.
Oh, death.
Exactly right. We just make it one of those boundary things.
A way to look at it.
Explode! A pack of Yetis come out of the ground and eat you.
What was that, Mix?
A way to look at it as a homebrew is, yes, you probably can't, replay. Oh, we go back to jail. We save this city. We save that city. If you look at it, all the different groups, they all technically could have done the same thing. So if you look at it, maybe if you go back into that homebrew, you could play what the Monday group played or the Thursday group. So while you can't play the exact same thing that you already played, you could play something else that is still in the same world, meet the same characters, but from a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
So basically, Saturday Night Crew would just play the Monday Night Crew DLC.
Oh, right, exactly. Oh man, this is one of my favorite things when it comes down to the homebrew world, is that I am making it that there's always going to be like a point of interest in just about every region of the world. And using that, it's kind of like wherever the players decide to really begin their campaign and get invested, from there I can use their location and the things that they've gone up to do so far to only then make up the campaign.
So why here is crossover session.
Right? Oh no.
What's up? Things
That's a
going
I
thing.
mean, what was it in the homebrew world? I had to sit there and watch two other groups. One group defend the city from fruit users, and then another one destroy it because they have fruit powers.
Mm-hmm. Here, hold on. I understood Skittles was saying something. What was up?
like two different things going for us now. Like moving forward, at least we have the videos on demand, so we can go through and relive that stuff again.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have our text-based RP stuff that you can go through and reread what you've done.
Yeah, exactly. That is something I look once again. If you guys maybe you guys aren't interested, you guys maybe aren't too familiar with doing text-based RPG, but I highly recommend give it a go because you'd be surprised by A, what type of creative writing people can come up with, and B, you guys for any of you who have not played in the homebrew world, this is your opportunity to learn what it is to see my writing process in work, as well as the fact for those who have been in it. I'd imagine this is one of the things where you're excited to head back into the homebrew world now that it's new and there's NPCs there to explore and see. But let's take it down another street. So obviously we had hit like this. We hit the lowest points. We have hit our highest points, and we've gone through the history. But now let me ask you guys this: if you were to, let's say, pick one thing that you would want to change in Dungeons and Dragons. One thing. I know some of you are going to be like, I have a list of 10 things I would love to change because I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like that. What would be the one thing you'd change? And for the most part, it's pretty obvious that we can't change that people start at level 1 because, you know, that's up to DM. We can't change that you guys have low rolls, and we can't change that a campaign comes to an end. So what would be one aspect of D&D that you would want to change or improve upon? Starting with Eli.
That's a tough question.
That is a tough question.
Here then, we'll do this. If any of you guys have a answer right now, you may speak up, and if multiple of you speak up, I'm gonna pick one.
I got one.
Okay. Let me go ahead and hear EJ.
I want to do the thing that Maniacal said. Dodge mechanic, but like make it like you roll a dice and between what numbers and what numbers you get like a chance to roll, and if you mess up you take like 2/3 damage,
you know,
instead of like the full thing.
Well, yeah.
It's funny because what you guys are referring to is a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, so can I just ask for that next session?
Look, I might
with that too.
I might consider it for the homebrew world, but for the purposes of a pre-made campaign, no.
Yeah. I would say, in general, there was like a D&D like 6E like poll like so that gave a good point where it's like you would like a combination of basically how 5E does character creation along with how Pathfinder 2 does character creation. Like you have like your subclasses of course, but then with the extra feats and stuff, it can be a lot more modular, I guess.
Yeah.
To really like kind of like get like that perfect character of what you want.
And what were you gonna say, Glitch?
I was gonna say be able to go past level 20, like be able to go into higher into levels, like so you just don't have a cap, and then like say you're running a campaign that's longer, like you're just not stuck at level 20, like say midway through and then all the way up to the end.
You know,
You
it's
can go
funny.
higher in levels.
So there are two things. I'm gonna ask a question. I just want to hear a general yes and no. Do any of you guys know what an epic boon is?
No.
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
So, for those of you who are unaware, epic boons are a type of buff that comes into play when you achieve levels beyond 20. These are also buffs that can be given out by the DM on a whim, based off of whether or not they think you've deserved an epic boon throughout the campaign. Which, not to say that I don't think any of you guys deserve epic boons, but epic boons are extremely powerful. We're talking about, like, let's say for a spellcaster, you've hit a certain experience threshold, or you've hit a certain milestone that you have now been warranted one epic boon from leveling up beyond 20. One of the epic boons I think is really nuts is the boon of high magic, which gives that spellcaster a second ninth level spell slot. Ninth level
What the fuck?
ninth level spells are ridiculously strong, and to imagine the idea of someone with not one but two ninth level spell slots, it's so much. And an example of that, I think the Thursday boys near the end of their campaign, one of them actually got the boon of high magic, because I believe they wished.
It was their bard.
Yeah, and so the bard had all this healing that he just dumped into everyone, and it was like he could full heal the entire team twice.
Damn.
And by the time you're playing where they are, getting a full heal might as well just be the end for whatever you guys are fighting. But to get
ironically, was also the only person that died.
Right? Oh man. Wow. No, technically there were two because one of them sacrificed themselves. But yes, epic boons are kind of a way into doing that. I understood that previous editions had what were called prestige classes, and one thing that I've heard is that prestige classes, everyone felt like they weren't done quite right. And what I mean by that is there is a fine line between there's a fine line that is hard to get to, and it's called balancing. Some characters can be in 5th edition. There are ways to make what are referred to as broken characters that just can't lose, or their percentage of losing is immensely lower than other people. For example, there is a combination in Dungeons & Dragons, which is you take, I believe it's you take Polar Master, so you can attack creatures when they enter your range of opportunity rather than leaving it. And you take Sentinel, so when you hit someone with an opportunity attack, their speed drops to 0. Using these two mechanics, the fighter who usually takes this is never going to lose a fight, or at least the opponent who wants to run away will never successfully run away, because they provoke an opportunity attack entering, they provoke an opportunity attack leaving, and because of the fact that it's a Polar Master, most creatures that come to fight you, their range at lower levels is a 5-foot range. So when a polearm at 10 feet hits them, their speed drops to 0. They are unable to get any closer. You hit them, and then you back up, so that way when they approach you again, they are then hit with an opportunity attack. Their speed is dropped to 0, and you just never take damage.
And that's why I play Master.
Yes.
It's so cheap.
There are a lot of crazy ways to break D&D, and when it comes down to it, I think two things. One, it's really hard to balance a campaign to be at level 20, let alone imagining anything beyond that. And B, I just don't think there are. Yes, technically a Tarrasque would be like you know what, for your guys' campaign, the end of the world is coming, and so not only do you have to deal with the Tarrasque, you have to deal with Tiamat on the other side of the world. Good luck. That's your level 20 campaign. It's, I believe there's a lot less roleplay to be said in higher level campaigns when you are just so immensely powerful you can just wish to succeed, which is a spell that you can get, which is a 9th level, and you get that at 17th level.
Yep.
But I would love to see a way to kind of make D&D to go beyond that, and I would love to. I would welcome creatures of higher CRs if there was a way to, because I think that's the biggest thing. If we can get creatures of higher CR introduced, which we are starting to get some, that would be a great way to kind of segue into how to go beyond. And this is to go even further beyond.
Further beyond.
Exactly. All right. Anyone else? Ways to change that you would want to change or improve upon D&D?
I want to know how many hit points the target has.
Eli?
Oh, actually, no. Actually, I'm curious. EJ, you continue.
every time. Every time I'm like, is it close to dying? And Xeno's like, I don't know. Is it bloody? Is it staggering? And I'm just like, I want to know a number.
So here,
First
Yeah,
session, you gave me a
first
number.
time. It's bloody if it's like certain health. It's staggering if it's like almost fucking dead.
so
Yeah.
this is the way I do it. The moment a creature hits bloody, they are halfway through their health, and the moment a creature hits staggering, they are at 25% or less of their health. And you guys can typically tell there's technically a third level, which is nearly dead, which is the next hit will probably kill them. And at
Don't
that
forget
point,
the fourth level, the nice.
nice. Oh, that's right. When the secret ability you get when they hit just that specific number in health, you get the nice. I think that's one of my biggest things is I feel like if I tell you the number, it really like okay, telling you a number really will change the outcome of your gameplay. Because if I tell you if I tell you that the creature has 20 hit points or less, you are probably less less willing to use a higher level spell slot or your big bursting ability if you're aware about how much health it has, and so you'll give it the minimal amount of effort needed.
So I have a good example. How many of us here have played Breath of the Wild?
Me.
I have.
Okay. Okay, so for those of you who haven't, in Breath of the Wild, you don't know any of your enemy's health, like at the beginning of the game, and you go through that so much more cautious. Like you go, I don't know if I could take on this enemy, or I don't know if I want to take on this enemy because my weapon might break. But once you get an item called the Hero's Tunic, suddenly you see all your enemy's stats, and next thing you know, you are just going, oh yeah, I'm about to go fuck that thing up. Like the whole anticipation of, oh, can I do it, or anything like that, or anything like that, like the surprise of like a good fight, kind of just goes away because you just see your enemy's stats and you're like, all right, I'm about to go make some bitch meat.
Mm-hmm. Now I will.
A feat, or maybe it's a cantrip. I can't remember. There's something that you can do during the game to get a good idea of enemies' health and abilities. And I forgot the fucking name.
Now, actually, I know what you're referring to. So, fun fact, everyone: there is only one class with one specific subclass that can know the exact number of hit points a creature has.
Really?
And it's the Battle Master Fighter. Now, Battle Master.
You can pick it up too with College of Lore, which is something I was looking at.
Yes. Okay. So technically two. The way it works is Battle Master Fighter. After a minute of interaction with a creature, you can pick from a list of 7 things 2 options. One of those options is what are the creature's, I believe it's either current or maximum hit points.
I think it's max.
Let me pull it up. I have that. This good thing I always have this up and ready to go. So Fighter, Battle Master, and it's called Student of War. No, not Student of War. It is Know Your Enemy. Starting at 7th level, if you spend at least 1 minute observing or interacting with another creature outside combat, you can learn certain information about its capabilities compared to your own. The DM tells you if the creature is your equal, superior, or inferior in regards of 2 of the following characteristics of your choice. So, it's current hit points, it says right here. So, if you're asking, I want to know current hit points, I then tell you it is either your equal, indicating that you actually found something that has the exact hit points that you do, or roughly around. It is your superior, meaning that this thing probably has more than hit points than you have at the moment in a comparable amount. Or inferior, meaning that this thing is like significantly weaker than you in this category. And the categories are your strength score, your dex score, your con score, the armor class, the current hit points, the total class levels if it has any, and the total fighter levels if it has any. Yeah. It is pretty wild that was kind of like a thing that was built in. And how do I put this? 5th edition is very smooth to run. I think it's as I've taken a look into the other campaigns, and there's just something about how easy it is to get players into 5th edition that I like. However, though, I feel like the moment I bring numbers into the game, you're gonna feel of it more of it as a video game than you will as a role playing session, right?
I understand that now
Yeah.
because while I played Breath of the Wild, I saw that the Hero's Tunic did that, and I immediately took it off.
Yes. There's
So now I understand.
yeah, and in Breath of the Wild, I don't think they give you any indications that the creature is like at half hit points or stumbling, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing all around.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it does give you a health bar, but doesn't
For-
give you.
For big bosses.
Oh yeah, for big bosses, no.
no. Well, here then let me add this then. So, oh sorry, Eli. I know you were gonna say an improvement or a change you would want to do.
Oh yeah. So because I've only played a warlock, so I am very much oblivious to any other class right now. They are non-existent as of right now. But I would like it if warlocks, or I guess in this case, spellcasters had more
Spell slots.
spells we use. Yeah, not spell slots. No, not even that. It's actually perfectly fine with 2 and 3 later. I just want more spells.
So,
To,
there is a large list. You are any like yeah. Let me see. Some of you
Like
are looking at the screen share. So if I pull up, like obviously it's one of those like, what do you mean there's no spells? We have spells at home. But if I right exactly. If I click warlock,
Xeno,
you know. Oh sorry, what were you saying, Eli? Go for it.
I was saying the reason I say this is because I remember like a few days before I was telling you like, oh, I was curious about what warlocks had. I read every single spell and I want more.
Oh my god, you're greedy, Eli. I say, but no, I think okay. I think what I, if anything, if I would say it, I think the number of spells you know is technically endless. You warlocks, sorcerers, clerics, druids, and wizards can technically know every spell in the game. However, though, I think what the main thing is how many spells you can have prepared at a time is huge. There are so many instances where I wish, like, from my list of 10, I can only have 5 of them prepared for the day. And so from these 5, it's like, I want to be able to at least know, oh, wait, I wish I was able to know one more spell to help balance things out and be able to know and be able to utilize more of my spells that I have prepared. However, though, that also comes into the whole you got like the I think restrictions build upon characters. It's one of those things where someone who I think if I remember this correctly, the person who has less time to work on something versus the person who has more time to work on something does the same amount of work in less time because they have restrictions. So they have to plan out what they want to do and then tackle it full force. Whereas people who have more time to accomplish a task or more option to accomplish tasks will kind of put it aside until it's just convenient for them. So there's definitely something to be said about the number of spells you have prepared. But I would like to see either more spells prepared or maybe just one more spell slot. I think the number of spell slots are currently good, especially with the way I run encounters. But if there were just more spell slots, I would probably be able to run at least like 1 or 2 more encounters for my players that are very spell reliant.
Oh yes.
But here, if does anyone else have another way they would want to improve upon or change a mechanic in D&D?
For me, it'd probably be like healing itself. Starting off low, healing is probably too good. Because like a goblin is what gonna hit you for like 5, maybe 8 damage. You can easily heal that with one spell.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start getting into like the mid game to the higher game, you're gonna want to just use your best healing spell because that's the only thing that's gonna give you a portion of what like a boss or any decent damaging enemy can heal can damage you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like to get like half as much if that. I don't think it's anything huge. Like a life cleric, their healing is probably way more than enough. But just give everyone like maybe one more dice of healing so it kind of feels like, oh, I didn't just waste my action healing you for 2 health when the enemy does 20.
Alright, this level of healing spell slot, and you get like maybe 6 healing points out of it. It's like, oh, thanks.
I can see that. I think to that's interesting. Okay, let me ask you guys this. So there are a few homebrew rules that I've heard running through this. One of which is that there should be an average number of healing done. Kind of like a way where if you have a passive perception, and if you roll below your passive perception, you just keep your passive because that's dumb that you can't roll higher than what you have as a built-in thing. I've seen things said that there should be like an average number for healing taken. So, I'm rolling a d4. That means I'm always guaranteed 2, but if I happen to roll a 3 or a 4, then I'll take those instead. You know? And so this comes into play when you're taking a look at Healing Word, or where it does like Healing Word at like what 3rd level does 3d4s. So it's nice to know you have at least 6 plus your spellcasting modifier guaranteed. And if you happen to roll that 3 or 4, it gives you that much more. It's something I might implement. I very much kind of use the homebrew world to be my guinea pig. But let me ask you guys this: what are your opinions on critical attacks, and from what you've experienced with them so far? Anyone can feel free to answer it, and I'll just pick if multiple.
I would like to start off mainly because of the fact that Xeno, if you have seen my spells, they're all mainly like depending on if the enemy has or rolls a low or high on a spell or on a saving throw. Yeah. So so far I will not be able to see a lot of critical hits, and I wish that kind of changed a little bit. That some of the spells were more like attack roll based. That's the word.
There was
I think it depends on the class too. You want to either nerf it or boost it up. Like for non-battle classes, for non-melee classes, I'd love to see improved criticals.
Right. I think what's number 4? There was something I recall where there was a discussion where if a natural 20 gets a critical because of a roll that you make, then a natural 1 made from a saving throw should also apply a critical.
Yes.
There was an interesting debate. There was an interesting discussion about this and how natural 1s technically don't automatically fail outside of hit or misses. And so it's kind of this whole like, yes, natural 1s on hits will always miss, just as natural 20s on hits will always, land a critical. And so to compensate for this, saving throws you're always guaranteed damage, regardless of if they succeed or fail. However, though, in the event of, let's say, for example, like Polymorph, a spell where there is no damage made, if they succeed, then nothing happens at all. I've heard it's like that's just a waste of a turn. Or it even sucks when you want to do so much damage, and it turns out that the creature has legendary resistance. So, yes, it failed. It rolled a natural 1. I can do so much damage, and then all of a sudden you hear, but it chooses to succeed instead. That is a huge thing. But I feel like that also adds into the whole like, you have to make teamwork makes the dream work, and your team has to try to force out saving throws to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. Or, for example, there are some spells in the game that your teammates can provide that impose disadvantage on saving throws, or a subtraction to saving throws that can really like change the course of a game. Here, I'll be right back. I think Rocco needs to quickly go to the bathroom. Shouldn't be more than 5 minutes.
Okay.
Now that he mentioned that, I kind of think it's cool. Like if they rolled a nat 1, it's like they messed up so badly they couldn't even use their legendary action or resistance, and it would make sense, I guess, because they messed up that badly that they got a nat 1 trying to avoid this spell that was incoming.
There's like critical failure tables that people roll on in homebrew stuff, saying like, oh, you rolled a nat 1, let's roll on the critical fail table.
You rolled a nat 1. You guys knocked each other out.
I think on things that require saving throws, if it rolls a nat 1, but it has the ability to use legendary resistance, I think instead of like instantly succeeding, instead of rolling a nat 1 on that saving throw, it should still count as a fail, but not a critical fail.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Because, I guess we'll keep it balanced.
I will say though, for like crits, because I see like a lot of times among different groups, like you'll get a crit and you'll roll lower than if you hadn't gotten a crit. I feel like if for crits you just rolled the maximum damage for your normal dice instead of doubling dice, you'll probably end up doing more damage that way because it
True.
lowers the chance of getting like 2 1s or something like that.
I hate when I get a crit because I think my last session I got like 2 crits, and I rolled less than my normal rolls, and that just like it irks my soul.
Good boy.
Because it's like I got a 20, I roll a 7. What the fuck?
No. Rolling a 20 on a rolling a nat 20 on a melee hit and then proceeding to do 2 damage.
Yeah.
You do not know how badly that fucking burns me.
Or getting in that, like rolling a 20 and getting a 1 for like a spell, like say like Eldritch Blast. Getting a nat 20 and then getting 1.
Well, try rolling 3d8s and getting 1 on all of them.
What? What are the odds?
That does not know.
It
Don't do me
happens
like
fairly
that.
frequently. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that can happen.
It hurt my
And then for
soul.
like for us rolling in that one, I think spellcasters have it slightly better because it's or at least the way Xeno does it's like if a spellcaster rolls in that one, the enemy attacks the closest person to them. So it's like you get screwed by someone else. I feel like it'd be
Yeah.
interesting if it's like okay, you rolled in that one, the enemy will try to get to you and attack you
Yeah.
without provoking,
Opportunity of attack.
an opportunity attack from people around it. I feel like that would make it really interesting because then you don't have that buffer. Oh, I'm too far away; it can't get to me.
I didn't know. Oh. Has that happened to us before?
Alright.
I think so.
I think very rarely because usually our spellcasters are like down, or yeah.
Alright. So I am back. The goodest of boys has gone and done the duty. And so we head on back, and so as we were mentioning, there's different ways to improve upon the game. There's different low points that we hit, and there's different high points we hit. Now, let's just kind of just go over what would you say? How do I put this? When we all innately heard Dungeons and Dragons, and we had seen the stories, we've always a friend had mentioned to us. What would you guys say is the biggest key thing that drew you into Dungeons and Dragons? Starting with Eli.
Oh, I'm on my computer. Magic.
Magic. Tell me a little bit more about that. Why?
I am a big old fan for spells and stuff like that, and Skyrim was one of the games that I mainly played a lot at the time. And I was a big old Magic fan. So when I saw and heard like, oh, you can do all this stuff, like the big one was polymorph, where I could basically point at an enemy and be like, I'm turning you into a chicken. I found it extremely funny, but the fact that
Wabbajack their ass.
exactly, yes.
I think one of my favorite.
I can.
Oh, sorry, go for it.
Oh no, I essentially have a Wabbajack spell, and I was so excited to hear about that.
I think one of my favorite things is whenever I heard about the idea of turning someone to a chicken, my mind did not jump to the Wabbajack. It jumped into the stupid South Park episode where he's like, my power is to turn Kyle into a chicken. God damn it, Cartman! So that's my spellcaster has cast polymorph on the fighter because the fighter said something mean to him.
You can do that? You can target a spell towards your party member?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Technically, you can target it, as long as it meets the criteria of the spell, then you can target a party member.
I was very.
If you
I was
really
very
wanted, you could walk right up to a party member and punch them, or attempt to punch them in the jaw.
Or do
Yeah.
inflict
Alright.
wounds and just end their character, but no one likes
Remember
that.
that, Bird. Next time you cut me off.
Well,
I
you
mean,
should
I'm
watch
talking and you
it-
cut me off, I'm
Saturday.
gonna punch you.
It's mostly used for like, oh, we need to get our giant armor guy in there sneakily, turn him into a rat. Not, let me murder the entire party just because I'm bored right now.
Exactly. That create.
Saturday
Yeah.
came a lot more because I torture the hell out of our one guy, Nix.
Oh,
Mhm.
I've nearly killed him several times.
Let me heal the person who's attacking the party after they go insane with madness.
Yes, technically that too. So as I mentioned before, you guys remember how that one the bard had a 9th level spell slot? Well, in one of the biggest, highest moments of their campaign, when they were fighting a CR30 creature, the CR30 creature charmed the bard and made the bard walk up to him and do a 9th level cure wounds on it.
Oh my
Damn.
god. Pain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or I think it wasn't a 9th level cure wounds. It was like some 9th level spell that could have been done at range, but the boss specifically wanted the bard, who is the healer, to come over here, heal me for all the damage that your allies just blew all their load on me for. And specifically, I want you in melee range because of what I'm about to do to you next. For now, so like, heal me. Now I'm gonna get rid of you, so that way your allies don't have the option of having you around.
It was funny because I think he healed them for like 400 HP. So the boss literally had like 1200 HP total.
Yeah,
Ah.
it was nuts.
Damn.
That hurts.
It was pretty crazy to like encounter that. You could tell all of them were like, why would he? Oh no! And you could just see like the oh no on everyone. You could hear on everyone's faces as the bard is walking over to him to help the boss out.
I do like how nobody blamed the boss. They were all like, why would you heal him? What is wrong with you? He's like, I'm charmed. They're like, that's no excuse.
No, right? Exactly. You could have resisted the charm. All right. So then, Rogue, what was the biggest thing that absolutely drew you into wanting to try or play Dungeons and Dragons?
Character creation and story.
Okay, elaborate.
Dungeons and Dragons is never just one story. It can literally be made up through anything. Like you could just have a world of JoJo or Pokemon or literally anything.
So
And the
definitely.
character
So,
creation.
okay, go for it.
Then character creation. There's always going to be new characters developing from the official sources, saying that, oh, we're going to be adding rabbit folk. Now we're going to be adding this guy, owl creatures, pixies, fairies. Like, well, damn, I don't even know where to start with. How would start with something basic like a ranger? How the fuck is that basic?
Oh, I get you. Especially because it's like I don't know. There's also a strange stigma I've heard in D&D where if you play a human, then you're basic. Who plays a human when you can be a tiefling or a demon? And people are just like, I want to be human. Human fun.
Only the basic people would say
Yes,
that.
but human fun. No, human boring. We go elf.
Human.
But elf is everywhere. How about go gnome? No, we go elf.
I am very much a stan of. I am very much a human stan. I will defend the option to play a human because humans are the only race that can start with a feature.
True. But they have so many disadvantages.
Let's
They
take.
kind of don't.
I wouldn't say disadvantages, but they don't have fucking snazzy bonuses like starting with burning hands no matter what class you are,
And they can't see in the dark.
or stones
of classes
endurance, or that, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of why they
You
have
can't
feet,
fly.
because they can literally have all that if they want to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They just have to choose which one.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the big. I think like, every race, especially now that Tasha's Cauldron has removed the entire like, you can now just freely choose where you want your stats allocated based off of what your race gives you. It makes total sense, right? Because let's say, for example, what's to stop a goblin, the 1 in a million goblin that's actually born with an IQ of 10, or with an IQ of 50 something, and it's like, wow, okay, this is nuts because
Hey,
it's
my
actually a smart
IQ's
goblin.
well above 50.
It's 51.
It's 52.
And so you have this idea of creatures don't have to be born into the roles that they were stereotypically put as. And to add into that, the main thing you look into playing a race now is because of the unique features offered to you. I am completely on board and understand why Human Fighter is. Fun fact: Human Fighter is the most popular option in Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Why?
Because two things. One, variant humans start with a feature. Okay. Fighters. Fighter is the only class. Sorry. Every class gets 5 ability score improvements or a potential 5 feats throughout their levels, all the way to level 20. Rogue gets 6 ability score improvements, and that means 6 optional feats. Or Fighter is the only one that has 7 ability score improvements or 7 features. Fighter, if you play a pure fighter, there is just a way to min-max it to the point where you take... I'm a human fighter who has the polearm feature, and as soon as I hit level 4, I now have Sentinel, and now I'm unbeatable. And so it's like, that goes into... And so Human Fighter is not just popular because it is very powerful. It's also popular because there are a lot of people who don't exactly know how to roleplay or like get into the mindset of playing anything other than what they are. So when they hear all of these options, another thing is like, I just like playing human. All the other ones kind of seem weird to me, or like I'm not really into like role playing anything that I can't insert myself into. That's a very common thing I've heard, and it kind of is, it's crazy to think that you can't role play as a goblin or you can't role play as a dragonborn, and it's like, nope. If I can't visually see myself in this, then it's hard for me to do it, and that is a valid viewpoint. Some people come to escape reality in D&D. Some people come to escape it while still maintaining their own sense of identity throughout Dungeons and Dragons.
Makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah. From what I understand, Hayes, are you there? If not, then we can go over you. Alright. Glitch, what about you? What would you say is the biggest thing that drew you into Dungeons and Dragons?
Mainly the fact that like, one of the races that you could be, it was a tiefling, because I'm like very into like creepy occult type stuff.
Yes.
So like seeing that I could be a demon as a character and like not be evil was like it was what brought me into it. And my first character that I ever created, who's Arxes, who's the person I'm going to be using for the text roleplay. He was the first character I actually ever created, and it was like very cool being able to be a demon and seeing what I could do as it. And then as I got more into D&D, I saw like more of the things I could be, and especially being like really crazy stuff. Like the most recent character I made was a pixie barbarian.
Okay.
Or no, fairy barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
And that just basically also like character creation, but it's like mostly the being able to be a demon.
All right. I can definitely dig with that. I understand the fascination with tieflings, and there's another. That kind of reminds me of the whole like
Enough, guys, I get it.
I get the whole like, as much as there is a love for Human Fighter, the second most popular option is Tiefling Rogue.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yes. I like the. There was a meme I had seen where a human fighter had walked into a bar, an entire location filled. Sorry. The human fighter was about to join his party that was all tieflings, and all of the tieflings were like, "Why would you want to be a human when you can be something unique like a tiefling?" Says the entire full tiefling party. And there's something ironic in the sense of, yes, Human Fighter is a basic option, but when it's the one that stands out, it's not. It becomes the unique one now. It's hilarious.
Has his own
So
charm.
I'm gonna head out. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for joining, Glitch. I was say before you do head out, don't forget that you still need to do either 2 or 3 abilities in the to get approved along with your character. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. No problem. Bye.
Bye.
And so, Hayes, we had missed over you, but what would you say is your biggest draw that made you want to try, if not get into D&D?
I would say around the same time I started going to D&D, I started getting more into like fast genre stuff,
Mhm.
like fantasy and like RPG stuff. And since D&D was kind of the same, I got really into it.
Okay, so it's sorry, go for it.
Also, like around the time I started playing, I kind of started finding out about West Marches, which for people who don't know West Marches, it's kind of like how D&D in itself is an RPG. A West March is an MMO.
All right, all right.
So when they start getting the West March and the server that I mostly almost exclusively play in, a lot of people there are really nice and they're very good to me. So I stay for friendship.
I definitely can. I definitely can't wait because, funny enough, I feel like that's how. Well, here, anyone who has played in the homebrew world, would you describe the homebrew world as a almost MMORPG because of the way other characters can influence world events, or no?
Yes,
I would
actually, I would.
say
That
yes.
sounds cool as hell.
Here,
Because,
yeah, go for it, Michael.
Because honestly, you could easily run it. You as the DM could run it to where two parties could actually meet, and then we could either fight or work together, or you could easily have just pulled someone from Tuesday, Saturday, all the groups from someone else, and done something on Sunday to where all these characters from these groups meet up on this day. It's like you could have easily made it to where we all met at some point or worked together at some point.
All right, yeah. And what were you saying, Max?
I want to say it definitely has that vibe at certain points. The Thursday group, they were hunting Mind Flayer, and we ended up finding his base, and it's like, oh, they have this information, but you know they're not here because one of their members died, so they're recovering from that. Or at the very end, where we had gotten all the different nations together to help us fight this dark god, which left other groups having not an easy time because they couldn't draw on these forces that were already committed somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. I think definitely as a campaign reaches like the higher level tiers of play, the influence that other players can like affect other groups is very huge. Because by a level 1 party, you're probably not going to hear about unless like, oh, you happen to be walking to the town that they were in. But that definitely is something that I kind of want to utilize. I keep bringing it up because I've been working on it for a long while. But the text-based roleplay stuff, I do want to implement that in some way into when we actually do the homebrew world. So while your guys' side characters don't interact directly and affect huge impacts of the story, because that's what the Dungeons and Dragons is for, it's very nice to know that your character's actions can affect small time things. Like, for example, the shopkeep who had received an item in store was because one of your guys's roleplay characters had sold that item to them. You know what I'm saying? Small things that can be influenced by players in the roleplay sections themselves. And we head on down over to Mex. What was the biggest thing that drew you into Dungeons and Dragons?
So funny enough, the first thing that I saw Dungeons and Dragons, and I thought like that'd be something cool I want to try. I think I've mentioned it like once before. I was watching Dexter's Laboratory, and there's that one episode where he's playing D&D with his friends. And I always thought that was cool. The exploration part, where it's like you walk into an area and then it's like described to you, even if you do nothing with that information, just knowing that you're in this big world is pretty cool. And then as I got to playing, definitely the character creation. Like, I'm pretty sure at this point I've probably made like hundreds of characters for really no reason. I'll make them and then I'll be like, all right, I'm done with it. I'll delete it.
All right. And EJ, what was the biggest thing that made you want to try D&D?
All right. So it was. I think I overheard you talking about it, and I had no idea what it was. And then I asked you to explain it, and you like went out your way because you were talking about some like big story element to someone, and then like you went out your way and started a screen share, and you like showed me a bunch of things, and I still have like the original character sheet that we made that like I printed out, and I think it's in my folder somewhere. But like that was like I was like, all right, I want to get into this,
Aw.
and then I waited my 6 months.
And finally,
Now
there was
I'm
an
in a
opening.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an opening.
I'm glad to know that I greatly helped with that. That's actually a little heartwarming to hear, and really yeah. Here, I know you. I don't know if you're too busy. I can see you're typing it up, so I'm gonna go ahead and move over to Bird. What was it that made you want to try and get into Dungeons and Dragons?
Twofold. For starters, way back when, oh so very, very long ago, it was because I hadn't ever played D&D, but I had read quite a few of R.A. Salvatore's Drizzt books,
Right.
and I just fucking loved the world of Forgotten Realms, and I wanted to essentially kind of like create my own story as I go through D&D with that. And then the second part is I wanted to be a Birdman.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm pretty sure as soon as you heard that there was a race of bird people, you were like, yes, yes, yes.
When I learned that Aarakocra were a thing, I was like, oh, that's cool. When I learned that they could fly and circumvent most, like, ground-based problems, I wasn't too keen on that. However, when I learned that there was a little shitter version of bird people, I was like, yes, I'll take your entire stock.
Yes, the Kenku, as we will. The ones that can mimic any sound, especially those of annoying sounds that you might throw on your fellow players.
Like a didgeridoo.
Exactly. And so
I'll do it again too.
Taking a look at what Skittles is saying, as I can tell she's a little busy, is reading Dragon magazine in middle school and solving Tomb of Horrors puzzles. Also, high fantasy book nerd. You all might have heard it before, but definitely the Drizzt books are very huge, especially through Bird, through Skittles, through Zen. That knowing that that's set in the world of Dungeons and Dragons can really help you get into the mindset of this is what you can do in D&D. Oh, that's so amazing. But last and not least, we're looking over at our good man Maniacal. What made you want to get into Dungeons and Dragons and, continue to play it? Also, you're muted.
Oh, hello. Sorry. Say again, please.
Oh, no, Maniacal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had to mute myself. There was a lot of commotion going on here. What got me into D&D is, like I said, my knees started going bad on me, so I started getting to the point where I couldn't go do what I normally do as often, so I started getting bored. So that's when my friend introduced me to Pathfinder, but Pathfinder just didn't hook as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when I tried D&D, I was just like, this is fun. I like being adventurous. I like going on quests and stuff like that. It allowed me to go do adventures that I couldn't take anymore, because it's hard for me to go on hikes or go mountain biking or something like that, because by the end of the day my knees just hurt, and like then I'm just miserable for like 2 days.
I get that.
So to be able to go and explore a world or go have fun like adventures or something within a world really drew to me, and that's why I kept like with it.
So here, we're about to end the stream, but I want to end it off with two stories. One of which is Funny enough, you're actually
Yeah, it's
not.
down here.
Oh shit! Hold on. We're about to bust you down with some questions then. But here,
Oh shit.
one of which was, you're not actually too far off. One of the Thursday boys used to be actually used to be on the football team for his high school, and it was just, same story. His back gave out on him, and so it was something that, while he can't he's by no far like unathletic. He just can't push himself to those limits that he could have done before.
Yeah, that's kind of me too. I can't go on like 6-mile hikes into the mountain anymore. Like I have to take and I can't go downhill on a mountain bike taking 10-foot drops, or else I'm afraid my knees are just gonna blow it out on me.
Right. And so there's something about like noticing the Thursday player, his name is Joseph. He is a sweet gentle being, and he is always willing to just do the helpful thing. And I've seen like he first played a paladin. He followed that up with I'm trying to remember actually now. He has played monk, and monk, you could definitely tell it's fun because when monks do dash and they have an innate movement speed, they just zoom all over the field, and he's just like, yes, zoom, or doing big athletics checks. And it's nice to know people. That's what D&D is. D&D is taking us out of our reality into something that we can be, or something that we wish we could be. And for a lot of people, that escape from reality means a lot more when you realize you can't do a lot of the things that you would want to do. And so I'll end off with that story that I was gonna say. So Hive, you ready for a D&D questionnaire on getting to know you? So
Sure.
first, tell us a little bit about your history with tabletop role-playing games.
I started in Pathfinder, played that for about 5 years, and I DM'd in Pathfinder once.
Really?
It
No.
only stopped because of scheduling. And now I play in Xeno's game, which is 5th edition, which is okay, I guess.
Yeah.
5th edition is fine.
Well then here, let me.
They're making it better as the more stuff they release.
Yeah, and I think
To me,
that's to come with every edition, right? As more stuff gets released, more cooler things come out, and there's always something waiting around the next book, which I can't wait for the next 2 books to drop because they announced them both within the span of 2 days. I'm just like, oh man, I know a little bit of what's to come, but I want to know the full extent of everything that's in the books. Here, I'm gonna instead of asking you the order of it, I want to ask you this: what was it that made you want to get into tabletop role-playing games, and what was it specifically that made you get into 5th edition?
Well, the second one I only got into 5th edition. Oh, I previously played 5th edition before, but never not to a large scale like this, I guess. But I guess so. I'd say you, pretty much, because now I play regularly, every week. And fuck, what was the first one? How did I get into it?
How'd you get into role-playing games, like tabletop role-playing games in general?
This was back 2016. Discord, literally Discord. I met this British person. And she was like, "Oi, mate, I do D&D. I run this game called Pathfinder." I'm like, "Cool." I joined the server. We play every day for an entire year. Literally, she took like a week to set it up because this is something she's already done before. And we literally played for an entire year every day, like with a group, because we didn't have much going on at the time.
Sounds like the
I mean, we did stuff during the day, obviously.
Jesus.
but our downtime our downtime from not doing the important things we had to do was that, and we eventually had to end up stopping because things were getting a little too hectic for everyone.
Well then.
And
sorry, go for it.
And then one of my other friends that was part of that group, they started the session, and he ended up being one of the best DMs I've ever played before in my life. I might be playing for him again sometime
Nice.
soon.
Well, then here, let me go ahead and say, what is one of your favorite? Explain to us why. What's your favorite play style when it comes down to like Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop role playing games, and why is it so?
I'm all about like the role playing. I don't know. I don't know why I like it so much. I just do.
Mm.
I think it's just because I get to talk to people, but like we're talking through fictional characters in a fantasy setting, you know. So like it's not like your weird, like average mundane stuff.
Going back onto this. It's the exact very escape from reality that when it comes to role playing,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the store and go and buy some milk versus role
Yeah.
play. I'm gonna go down to the
Fuck,
dungeon.
I almost fucking died. Yeah.
So
The
then,
fucking troll almost killed me and fucking took my skin.
that's right, the troll that murders. But okay, if that is one of your favorite things about, if your favorite role plays and your favorite aspects, then tell me about one of your biggest frustrations going through this and one of your lowest points in a game.
Constantly rolling bad. Constantly rolling bad. Um,
Oh yeah, welcome
also,
to my
also,
fucking world with all the
it is
fours.
it's a thing with me at least. It has been when I play Pathfinder that like death is chasing me every chance it gets. Like I have so many Pathfinder characters that have died, and it is unfortunate.
All right, all right. And so then, what was your lowest point in a campaign?
Lowest point. Um, I think this goes back to my first character I ever had. Um, I asked her if I could roll for race, and I said only at the catch that I get to pick like something from like stuff from the bestiary, and what I get I have to go with. So I got a bear, and I ended up being a talking bear until we ran into the spooky house. So I say we, but I ran into the spooky house with a gnome on my back. The floor caved in, fell into a very deep basement, and I I actually exceeded like my health at the time, so I just died instantly.
Sheesh.
That was it honestly was pretty funny. And then my next character drowned because I couldn't do the swimming checks.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, then here, if there was one aspect, just one aspect, and this is specifically a 5th edition thing, one aspect you can change about 5th edition or improve upon, what would that be?
I guess I have two. I have two qualms with 5e. I need more spells.
You're
Just
not
more
the only
spells in general.
You're not the only one who said that. It's actually Eli who agrees with that.
Yeah. And I think that there needs to be more feats, and you should get feats more often.
Okay. Now
so that might break the game a little bit.
Yeah, it might break the game a little bit.
If they don't balance it right.
I think here. So so part of what it is that I asked that question is because for all of you who I explained for, the homebrew world is very much where I put a lot of my guinea pig testing. As in a pre-made campaign, if I make your characters broken, you lose the enjoyment on the roller coaster that is the campaign. Whereas the homebrew world is kind of like, it's up to me to really balance out and work with what you guys have. Yeah. And so the homebrew world is where I've experimented a lot more, hence why there were One Piece Devil Fruits, why there was hockey, why there were League of Legends characters, why there was Monster Hunter weapons and Monster Hunter gear. It's a lot of experimentation that I throw into the homebrew world, and as much as I had fun with them, I always want to do something different. So a lot of your guys' input is being listened to, and I want to try to see if I can implement homebrew worlds that, while not necessarily like out there like the Devil Fruits are, can just change the game that much more, that make it that much more enjoyable for you guys. I think that'll be a good thing. Maybe I'll actually look into into the D&D Beyond list of features and homebrew spells that people have come up with, and kind of like look through their balancing and see if they're good enough to be added into a campaign. I remember there was one homebrew spell that I added, and it was just egg. Egg is a very simple spell. You conjure up an egg in the palm of your hands. Oh, sorry, you conjure up an egg. You roll a d8, and it determines what type of egg you get. And depending on the type of egg, a strange effect will happen. It was a very simple spell.
The only reason why I say I want more spells is because whenever I like look at them, especially since I've been playing sorcerer, like I just don't feel much variety like could be had with what we have as like casters, and like I don't know. It's
Right.
just,
you're noticing a lot of
you get less spells like the higher you go, obviously, but like they really start to like be scarce, like around like what 5th level spells and stuff like that.
If you don't mind me asking, then, so if I know, because one of the biggest things is the amount of spells, but to compensate for that, would something like having a larger list of prepared spells be something that would interest you, or is it definitely the variety in the spells themselves still?
Yeah, maybe like a larger list of prepared spells, something like that. I don't know, because it works different for every caster, so.
Exactly. Okay, then I think for the most part, I had done high point, low point, what you would change, how you got into it, and the history. So let me tell you guys this about this is going based off of the idea of what Maniacal had stated before, how we use our D&D characters to help us kind of imagine a scenario that we would want to be in but can't quite be in because the world isn't fantasy. And there was one campaign I played in. It was actually an Out of the Abyss campaign, and it was one of those things where I very much had to like do good role playing because I knew all the ins and outs of Out of the Abyss. And so I made an interesting concept. Imagine this, if you will. Warforged are designed to be built for a specific purpose, and so I made my Warforged an artist. Oh, sorry, not an artist. It was a caretaker to a disabled noble. This noble in particular was kind of like the middle child of the family. So the middle child, because they were crippled, there was no feeling in their legs. They weren't viewed as like the older one, and they weren't as taken care of like the younger one. They were the one that everyone forgot about, and usually people throw pity on this one. So when he had an entire caretaker to be with him and be his friend, he let out his frustrations of how because of the way he is, he will never go out and see the world. He'll always live in this sheltered life full of things that it will always hear from. And so this Warforged was built in mind to have the ability to paint, and the Warforged then set out on a quest for this caretaker to explore the world for his caretaker and come back with paintings of every location that he could find, and explain to the caretaker in great detail what it's like, what it possibly smelled like, what it tasted, even though the Warforged can't taste or eat. And so, on top of this, the Warforged had a unique code that was assigned to its name, and its name was actually, if you put out the numbers, assigning them to letters, you realize that the name is Da Vinci, but the Warforged's name was like literally every letter of like Da Vinci as its numerical counterpart. And for role-playing purposes, I made it that I never told any of the other PCs what my name actually was until I felt that we had bonded well enough that I'll like, so my actual name is Da Vinci, and in fact, it's primarily just because it's literally my serial number that happens to build up these letters. And it was definitely one of those great things because I felt like, as someone who is very much, not the brawniest, not the most, not someone who really travels as much as I would want to, it's nice to imagine someone that will travel the world for me and tell me the stories of where they went. Someone who will always come back and sit there, not to throw pity on you, but to tell you of the cool things that they've seen, like any other friend would. And you know, part of why I love D&D is just that. We all love to escape reality, but it's a strange thing to kind of be the person that you want in your life. That is one of my favorite aspects. And so, it is with that.
Wow.
We are going to go ahead and give today's Nerdy Talk an end. Thank you everyone so much for tuning on in. It has been a pleasure having you all join us for today's show. If you guys are looking to support, please follow and subscribe on Twitch. And if you're looking for any sort of stream notifications, possible chance to participate, and even content polls, join my Discord and follow my Twitter. And if you're looking for any VODs, such as today's episode of Nerdy Talk, feel free to follow the XenoLich YouTube channel for any videos and such. Plus, for anyone who isn't aware already, we have officially launched the text-based role-playing section of the server. So come on down. If you guys are just joining the Discord today, come on down, join us. We have the text-based area where you can do character customization, you can do ability customization, and just explore the homebrew world before we go live with it on stream. But it was with that I wish you all a good night, and I hope you all stay safe. Bye, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.
Yes. Good night, everybody.